Now, with two guests from Thanet, we thought it was a great opportunity to check in on Manston. This aviation drama is full of twists and turns. If you haven't quite kept up, the latest is that the government said yes to the reopening of the airport as a hub for freight planes, but their decision was overturned in February after legal action taken by campaigners, and now the government has to look at it all over again. So, Roger, the planning inspectorate said to the government, they recommended that the government didn't approve this airport. It just begs all sorts of questions about how the planning system works, that the government then comes back and says, actually, we want to go ahead with it. Shouldn't the government listen to the planning inspectorate?
The government's job is to listen and then to exercise its judgment, and that's what they've done in this case, based upon need, based upon the local demand for jobs, based upon national requirement. And I'm extremely confident that the ball is now rolling again. The government has indicated that the lorry park will not be extended past the summer. So we're ready to go, to move. And I think we shall have a decision following a little bit more consultation on what is actually a very narrow point indeed, probably by the autumn.
OK, I mean, a very narrow point of almost a technicality. You're right in terms of why this was a sort of successful, almost judicial review. That said, new evidence is being called for, and the Secretary of State is calling for evidence that may be new in the last 18 months. Will you submit anything new? Do you think there's anything significant that's changed?
The only thing that's changed is that the need, if anything, has grown rather than diminished. We will have a demand post-Brexit for more freight capacity. And downstream, there will be a demand for passenger capacity. Plainly, that's not there at the moment, but that will happen. And it's a huge opportunity to create a large number of jobs, meet a local need, a county need, and a national need all at the same time. And it's going to attract initially about £300 million worth of investment in Thanet, a figure that's never been seen or heard of before on the island. And I'm absolutely confident that it'll make a huge contribution to the economy of the area.
Let's bring Karen in. So Roger there was mentioning jobs. Thanet is an area that could clearly benefit from jobs and investment, Karen. Why shouldn't that be a priority when this decision is made?
We have had no real job creation here for the past 10 years. So yes, we do really want jobs. What Roger doesn't tell you about this proposal is the jobs that will be created will be serviced by employees within a 90-mile radius. So that could be London and that could be Essex, people coming to Thanet to work. But the key thing here is this project is highly unlikely to ever get going, in my opinion, and based on the research that I've done myself. First of all, let's look at need. You've just had Stansted Airport has been gifted another 16,000 ATMs for dedicated cargo freight per year. That's 16,000 freight cargo movements every year, right? Thanet has asked for, RSP have asked for 17,000. What we had pre-COVID was a maximum of 14,000 air cargo freight flights in the country. So I don't know where this need's going to come from, and also consider that the other airports are going to be scrapping over this business like crazy, because Heathrow has lost, Gatwick has lost BA. You're going to have Stansted fighting and Gatwick's fighting for this business, as well as East Midlands Airport. And they've got the infrastructure already in place.
Okay.
So I really don't see that the national need is there.
Right. For time reasons, I want to move on to some of the other threads of the argument. So let's stay with Karen for a moment, because you claim that the new airport, the freight hub at the existing site, would be bad for people's health. Would you explain briefly what you mean by that?
Well, Kent County Council submitted evidence in respect of Gatwick a few years ago, and what they said then and what would apply here is lost sleep is lost sleep, and lost sleep leads to miscarriages, it leads to other heart conditions, it can lead to diabetes, because human beings are, generally speaking, we need to sleep at a regular rate, you know, so anything that disrupts our sleep actually can make us quite poorly. And then there's the particles in the air issue. And don't forget that the proposal for this air cargo hub is that it will be right over thousands of houses and schools and businesses in Ramsgate, and it will have a really devastating effect on tourism, on people's health, and generally will bring the area down.
Sorry to talk across you, but I want to cover as many points as we can. Back to you, Sir Roger. What do you make of this? In the end, is it a balancing act between people's health and jobs?
No. First of all, there's no requirement or plan to fly at night. So the sleep issue, I think, is a red herring. It's one that's been tried over and over again as an argument against the airport. Second, of course, aircraft are getting cleaner and quieter all the time. There is every expectation that Thanet will become a hub for hydrogen electric aircraft as soon as those are available and in service.
But you can't make a decision about a technology that is in... So Roger,
it is going to be...
Are you really asking the government to make a decision based on a technology that's not in use yet?
No, I'm not. What I'm saying is I'm just trying to put to bed some of the scare stories that you've been peddled. There is going to be in Thanet a state-of-the-art, zero-carbon airport. It will be, at the time that it's opened, the finest in the world. And I think that's an extremely exciting prospect and one that I hope I live to see.
Do you buy that, Karen Constantine? A zero-carbon airport?
No, I don't buy it at all. I think we're a decade or more away from having that type of technology for this sort of air cargo freight. I've looked at it myself. There's nothing that you can commission at the moment. There's nothing you can buy. RSP didn't include this in their plan to the Secretary of State. And as you just said quite rightly, Julia, you can't make an application that has a fundamental impact on people's lives and health and well-being based on some future technology, which may or may not happen. And whilst we're talking about future technology, don't let's forget that this air cargo hub will be highly automated, and the jobs that are being bounded around at the moment will be far, far less than we're being told they will be.
Okay, so if you don't want an airport on this site, for goodness sake, it's got this great big runway, you know, one of the longest runways in the country. It's sort of begging in some ways to be reinstated as an airport. Karen, what do you think should be there instead?
Well, our position has always been mixed use, mixed use development. And actually back in 2017, we could have had spades in the ground. We could have been building factory units, bespoke factory units for technological companies to move into, to start being part of the green revolution, bringing jobs into the area, high quality, sustainable. We could have been doing a lot more than we're doing. And this is just a political football in the community. It's not going to fly. We need to move forward and look to the future, not look behind to what we thought we had, which we never did have.
Last very quick word from Roger. This, judging by what has happened so far over the years, are you bracing yourself for more years of this to come?
No, there are there's every prospect that were it not to go ahead, in fact, what would happen is that the airport would be covered in housing to serve the housing needs of inner London boroughs that aren't prepared to meet their own housing needs. So what you'd have actually is a lot more housing, which Thanet is already threatened with, a lot more housing for people without jobs. What we're talking about is a serious job creating enterprise that, and I didn't say it would be zero carbon aircraft, I said it would be zero carbon airport. The aircraft will follow, it will improve, and I believe that we have a superb and a one-off, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to create something very special in East Kent.
So Roger,
I want to see it happen, and I'm determined to make it happen.
Thank you both very much.